Well, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. What you see right now is live footage from Osun, where the electorate is gathering again in some of the wards and polling units to do again what they did last week, Saturday. Hopefully, at the end of today, they would have completed that process of electing a new governor for the state. You know, the back and forth between the leading contestant and all the controversies that have been, the alignment and realignment, the conversations, who's who, who's where. This is what's happening now. You see, they're all gathering, and the INEC officials are there. Security operatives are also on ground. But we'll get back to Osun in the course of our programming today, and indeed in the course of this program, to talk to some people there and find out what the situation and updates are. Our correspondents are on ground as well, so we'll be talking to them as well to find out what the situation is on ground. The electorate, the politicians themselves, the officials, and all of that. But back here in the studio, we still have Dr. Dapo Thomas talking about the issues from the president's conversation at the UN General Assembly holding in New York. Dr. Thomas, now that matter of Nigeria's position in terms of foreign policy thrust, when the president was talking, I mentioned the fact that he spoke at a time when Nigeria was being, in some parts of the country, states were flooded, and then we have issues of terrorism, Boko Haram, and all of that. But he also mentioned something of note about the ECOWAS and democratic principles. Incidentally, we're having an election. We had an election just before a state election, before the president delivered his speech, and then he talks about how the ECOWAS is enforcing and upholding democratic principles. He used examples like the Gambia and Cote d'Ivoire and some other countries. What do you make of that position as regards upholding democratic principles and Nigeria?
Well, in the first instance, I don't think you expected the president of Nigeria to go and explain in front of the UN General Assembly that we are not upholding democratic principles. That's number one.
But we are upholding democratic principles, aren't we?
Good. So if he said we are upholding democratic principles in line with the way it should be done, it's possibly referring to what he has seen in Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria. Until his position is controverted or maybe contradicted by the reports of international observers, I want to believe that we have to continue to, we are going to accept his position. Because you and I are not in the position, since we possibly were not on ground, to see what actually transpired. So until there is an official and a formal report by the international observers contradicting his view or contradicting his position, I want to believe that, well, he's in a position to judge himself right or to judge the three countries that he has mentioned as upholding the democratic principles.
Something just occurred to me. Why do we always use this word, international observers? Is it that the local observers are unbiased?
No, okay. Whether you want to use local observers, I'm talking about formal presentation, formal position of observers. Okay, let us put local and international observers. But definitely, the local observers are also fantastic. They have been doing a very good job. So I don't have any intention to discredit their report.
The other angle of it is also about that matter of corruption, trans-border crimes, corruption, armed robbery, kidnapping across the borders, human trafficking.
Yeah.
That is one other issue that's been bothering government and indeed the people of Nigeria.
Yes.
What's your?
Well, he didn't actually talk about those ones, but he talked about those who are suffering as a result of what is happening in the Lake Chad Basin, as a result of, let's say, the climate change and everything.
He did appeal to the international community to ensure that the effect on the Lake Chad Basin is reduced or curbed as much as possible.
No, he's just calling the international, attention of the international community to the scenario in Lake Chad Basin, to see what the climate change has done, to see what terrorism is doing to his people, not just his people, 45 million, you know, the people of Chad, Niger, and even Nigeria that are in that region. So in terms of highlighting the serious cases in his own environment, I think he did. He tried. He may not be able to highlight all those things. Like I was explaining the other time, that it depends on how many minutes he had and what he actually wanted to use the platform for. Is it to actually highlight his own domestic policies and programs and actions, or is it to marry the two to also so that at least the international community will know? Because this platform is for international community, is for the international community to know what is happening in your country and also to know what your views are on what is happening outside. So he was able to do that. So possibly most of those things, human trafficking, armed robbery, transborder kidnapping and everything that you are talking about, he probably felt, well, okay, he didn't have enough or sufficient time to be able to highlight those ones. But in terms of the corruption, the Lake Chad basin issue, and also the Boko Haram issue, I think he mentioned them, not just in passing, but at least he was able to stress the need for proper cohesion among the international community.
When you talk about cohesion, one would also look at one's position. As if I'm asking you to work with me in moving this table, you'll be looking at where am I standing? Yes. Let's look at Nigeria's relationship with these other countries and the United Nations. Do you think we are in the right standing?
Which country in particular? If we are talking about the United States, yes, if you are talking about the United States, we are
China, especially with the back and forth between US and China, Israel.
No, it doesn't affect us. The tariff trade, the tariff war between US and China has nothing to do with Nigeria.
But then you heard, I'm sure you would have heard, got caught wind of